Good. Well, welcome to ConnectCentral. Great to have you guys here. It's good. You have to be nice and vocal tonight, all right? Yeah. Just do different voices as well, so it sounds like the place is just packed out with people. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching us online from the website or YouTube or however you've tuned in, it's great to have you with us as well. Hope you've brought a notepad or something that you can hopefully take something away from tonight. We pray that you would, you go away. We're going to talk about leadership tonight, practical leadership. Leadership is something that I'm extremely passionate about, mainly because I believe everything rises and falls on leadership. It's such an integral part of who we are as people, who we are as family, who we are as church, who we are as a society. Without leadership, you can definitely tell when it's not around, and you can definitely tell when it is around. Sometimes it's very evident and tangible, and other times it's the little things that you can't exactly put your finger on, but you notice very quickly when it is present and when it's absent as well. John Maxwell, probably one of the most well-known people on the planet for leadership teaching and training and facilitating. He's a great speaker, a great leader. Recently spoke at Hillsong 2015, I believe. He defines leadership as influence, nothing more and nothing less. He says leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. A leader that doesn't have anybody following him or her is just somebody taking a walk, which I've always thought was good. A very sobering image of people, because the term leader, I think, gets tossed around quite flippantly, in today's world. Every Instagram post and Facebook it's, some sort of leadership site or meme generator or something like that, where it's all about leadership this and leadership that, and it's all good, it's all very, very helpful. But in terms of asking the average person, what do you think leadership is and what does it look like? You get very different answers, and some people actually have no idea whatsoever. So I just thought we'd just go through some practical things around leadership, and the importance of leadership is that nobody gets better by themselves.
That's true.
Nobody gets better by themselves, and someone needs to be able to see. Ultimately, leadership is someone who can see where the rest of the crew are going, or the team, or the church, or the business, or the family, or whatnot is going. So leadership is fundamentally important. Nothing gets better by doing nothing.
That's true.
Yeah.
And that is why leadership, I believe, is very, very important. Let me give you a couple of examples.
Yeah.
For a garden to become overgrown, ridden with weeds and parasitic plants that choke out other plants, and for it to become just something that looks like straight off the set of Jumanji, just do nothing.
Yeah.
Do nothing to that garden.
That's good.
Yeah.
For a child to grow up without good manners, without courtesy, without people's skills, without how to work and deal with conflict and confrontation, and to set them up for failure in life, just do nothing as a parent.
That's true.
For a business to go bankrupt in a short amount of time, just do nothing as the boss or the manager or the CEO. Just do nothing. So we begin to see very, very quickly that by a lack of leadership, a lack of direction, a lack of maintenance and time and attention and care, all these things, they very rarely will go towards a more positive and productive place in the absence of any sort of leadership. That's why we engage with our gardens, those of us that have them. I don't. I live on a 3rd-story apartment, and I love it. There's no gardens to look after. It's fantastic. But children, people that maybe work alongside us, work with us, people that we're responsible for, we have to be engaging with these people. We have to be working in a way that draws the gold out of them. A great friend and a mentor of mine said, Dax, training people and leading people is a lot like digging for gold. It's in there, the gold is in there, but there's a whole bunch of dirt and stuff that you have to get out of the way before you get to the gold in people. And a big quality of great leaders is they can see through the dirt, through the issues, through the attitudes and personalities at times, to the very gold in somebody and go, hey, look, I'm going to have to remove a lot of stuff and help this person sift through the rock and the stuff that's less valuable to get to the stuff that I can see on the inside of you that's going to be very valuable and very, very shiny, for those to look at you. Nelson Mandela talks about leadership, and he said the head and the heart is a formidable combination.
That's good.
The head and the heart is a formidable combination. What does that mean? I'm so glad that you asked, all right? Without the heart, in brackets, the emotional, relational aspect of your leadership, you can have the greatest plan and the greatest structure in the world, but you will lack drive, you'll lack enthusiasm, you'll lack that momentum, you'll lack that intangible that we talked about before, where you can just feel it in the atmosphere that it's charged. Maybe in a church it would be like it's just charged with faith, and there's such an expectancy when you walk in on a Sunday service or in a team meeting or something like that. In a business, you can just go in and you can feel that there's such a momentum to the atmosphere where the staff look like they love to be there. They're not just there for a paycheck, but they are actually there because they enjoy getting out of bed in the morning and coming to work. Without their head, which is the intellectual side of your leadership, you'll have a bunch of energy and activity, but your ultimate outcome will be frustration, because you'll have a whole bunch of excitable people that are producing absolutely no outcome. So when Nelson Mandela said the head and the heart are a formidable combination, what he was saying is that you actually need both these aspects within leadership, within anything actually. You could apply this to anything that you do, anything that you participate in, whether it be sports, whether it be a ministry, whether it be a workplace. You bring your head into it, which is the logic, and then you bring your heart into it as well, which is your intrinsic motivation, your heart willingness to be there. Is that all right? So leadership is when the head and the heart are combined for the purpose of achieving an outcome. Before we go on, I'm just going to take you guys through 3 confessions. And if you're at home, do this as well. All right? Repeat after me. Number 1, you don't have to say that part. I may be the leader, but I don't always know what to do.
You've been reading my mind.
Number 2, I may be the leader, but it doesn't always mean I have all the answers. Number 3, I may be the leader, but I'm not always the smartest person in the room. Now you can take a big sigh of relief. I think there's so much pressure on a leader, on a father, on a husband, on a single mom, on a married mom, on a teacher, on a pastor, on a business entrepreneur, on a business manager, on a whoever that is in a position or a platform of leadership. And let's just, I guess, set up the session with the fact that you are influencing somebody right now. And if leadership is simply influence, nothing more or nothing less, and John Maxwell is right, then you are influencing, you are leading someone right at this very moment. There is someone being influenced by you, by your life, by your words, by your actions, by your deliberate mentoring, or by the fact that you have no idea that you're actually influencing them. You are leading somebody. Question is, where are you leading them? Where are you going? And where are you taking them with you? All right? But I think that kind of frames quite nicely and removes some of the pressure with any sort of leadership or influence that, hey, you don't necessarily have to be the smartest, you don't necessarily have to have all the answers, and you don't necessarily have to know what to do every minute of every day. If that was the case, not one of us, I think, would feel qualified for any sort of leadership. I'm not a parent yet, but I would imagine as a parent, there would be times where you go, I am so unqualified, underqualified, I have no idea what to do with this toddler or this teenager, or I have no idea how my parents or pastors handled me when I was going through that stage. But if you look at Jesus's leadership style, and I love Jesus's leadership style. He was the absolute model of servant leadership, and he took completely unskilled, unqualified, unlikely people, and he's a great example of digging through that dirt and all that stuff to get to the gold. He took drunken tradies, drunken fishermen, and said, you're going to go and be fishers of men. You are going to be the catalyst of my church, of my body. And you and I would probably go out there and look for the smart ones, the academic ones, the ones that are already leading the marketplace and are business millionaires and maybe already speaking in the temple from week to week, or the synagogue, whatever you want to call it. But he goes and gets the most unlikely people. And that's so refreshing that God does something awesome with people that you would go, yeah, no, I would have counted them out. I don't think they would have really been up for that. So hopefully that encourages you tonight that, hey, God has you exactly where he wants you, regardless of what the situation is looking like for you right now, in family, in business, in ministry, whatever your sphere of influence may be, in marriage, in parenthood. Yes, you are capable with God in your corner. Amen. Awesome. Something just really simple. Don't overcomplicate leadership. The best leaders I've found make things simple. It makes people feel important and amazing when they can break something down and come up with all the ins and outs of how something works. But I think the greatest leaders, think about some of the greatest people in your life that have maybe helped you, helped develop you, discipled you, whatever. They'll make complex things simple. Someone said to me a couple of years ago, "Oh yeah, Dax, I liked your message, but you're just really simple. I need something deeper." And at first I was like, "What are you talking?" I would take offense. I'm human. But then I was like, you know what? That's one of the greatest compliments you could ever get as a speaker, a teacher, a father, a leader, a business, manager or owner. If you can make complex things simple for people to grasp, they can run with whatever your vision is as the leader. They can implement it into their realm of responsibility within your organization, within your ministry, within your church, whatever it may be. If you go and give instructions or you're explaining how something is to be done and you get that deer in the headlights bewildered look where they're actually trying to convince you they know what the heck you're talking about, but you can see behind it all they have no idea what they're about to do, that ought to tell you something about how well you take complex things you need done and making it simple for them. Is that all right? All right, cool. So some practical stuff I'm going to get you to do. If you've got a notepad or a phone or a device, something that you can maybe take some notes on, what I want you to do is I want you to write down as many qualities as you can think of in people that have impacted your life through leadership. What were some of the qualities that you've witnessed, observed, noticed in your relationship with them? There's no right or wrong answers for this. This is just simply you observing these things in their life. It could be things like they're transparent. They're just real. Even when they're struggling, they won't try and put up a wall and go, "Oh no, I'm fine, everything's great," when you know that they can really be struggling with something. It might be something where they're very selfless. They'll put it all on the line to help other people. It might be their ability to relate to where you are and what's going on. That they will slow down their life long enough to hear what's going on with you and walk with you through something. Patience, exactly. Integrity. These are all sorts of things that you might see. They might be inspiring, motivating, encouraging. So write down some of these things. At home, if you're watching or if you're listening, begin to just take mental note of some of these things that maybe they are. These are good for you to look at. I'll give you another minute or so. If you've got 3, that's fine. If you've got 300, that's fine too. Now what I'm going to get you to do is categorize them. What qualities of those are intellectual? So maybe that person is really smart. This leader was so intelligent, or they were great with this system or that procedure. So categorize the ones with intellectual. Just put a little I above them. And then the other category, I want you to categorize which ones are relational. And what I'm getting you to do right now is I'm getting you to analyze leaders that maybe you look to, that have inspired you, that have impacted you, that have trained you, that have developed you. How many qualities that you've written down, how many are intellectual and how many are relational? How many are people skills or twice as many? Yeah, I think that would probably be the same for all of you here. All the qualities that have impacted you, that have touched you, that have reached you and brought maybe some sort of transformation to who you are as a person and therefore what you do, has mainly come through qualities that are more relational and people skill orientated than just about what they knew. The reason I've taken you through that is because this is exactly what Jesus was about. Anyone who is a leader is in the people business. It's very difficult to positively influence and take someone on a journey if you don't love people. And we all have our moments with people where we just really, I do not like you right now. I know I love you because I'm a Christian, but I don't like you right now. Me, I experienced this, absolutely. But what we're seeing now, especially in the marketplace, is there's such a shift from looking at when there's recruitment and interviewing happening for positions and roles, they're looking less and less just for the IQ, the intellectual quota, and they're looking more for the EQ, which is the emotional quota. What are the people skills like on this person? How well do they communicate? Did they sound great in a resume but struggle to continue a conversation in the interview process? How well do they deal with conflict? How well do they carry themselves when they're under pressure or when things aren't going their way? Does the whole world know about it? Do they wear a sour face? That's not the kind of person you want in your organization. Why? Because they don't have the emotional quota to go, you know what, it's not all going my way, I'm not happy with things, but anyway, I'm here to do a job, or I'm here to represent the person who's brought me on, or I'm here to represent Jesus if it's within the church. Am I going to have a sour face and a sour attitude and look like I've been baptized in lemon juice, or am I going to be an overcomer and go, you know what, emotions, I'm not going to let you rule me. You're just there to indicate what's going on, but I'm going to actually rise above that and move forward from there. Different message for a different day, but I think you get what we're saying. That's right, yeah. And that's the thing. You've got to be responsible for your, your response and your reaction to certain things because people are following you. So a big thing with leadership, and no one usually likes to talk too much about this, but you actually lose a lot of your rights. Life is in a fishbowl. Everybody's watching what you're doing and they critique everything that you do. And you notice that when you've got a fish in a fishbowl, they look larger than what they actually are if you held that fish in your hand. So the things that you do, say, act like, whatever it may be, that will actually be amplified for those that are looking into your world. I think it's in James where it says, don't over eagerly seek leadership and the role of a teacher. Why? Because the judgment is so much higher. The standard is so much higher for a leader. Jesus did not soft sell leadership. He wasn't there sugarcoating what it looked like in order to recruit more disciples. He went out and said, hey, you've got to take up your cross. You've got to, what, really? You want to bury your no, you can't. You can't look over your shoulder and still be he said, okay, it's cool if you want this thing. It's cool if you want to be a leader, but this is what it's going to cost you. Completely wasn't in my notes, but obviously something that we needed to look at as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through 6 really quick things. Really, and we could do a session on each of these, but I'm just going to breeze over some basic fundamentals of what we see in Jesus' leadership style. Number 1, great leaders pull people into their world. It's not just a personality thing. Personality can help, but leadership is deliberate. It's purposeful. What does it look like in everyday life? Simple. You take somebody with you. What I notice at church is the guys will set up and then they'll go and grab a coffee, and I always see one of them going, hey man, come for a ride. That's leadership. It's pulling people into your world, taking them along with whatever you do. Phil Pringle did a leadership session at the Presence Conference last year, and he said the biggest sin a pastor or a leader can ever make is to go and do everything himself. He'll go to the hospitals and pray for everybody. He'll go and do the home visitations. He'll go and do this. He'll go and do that. He said, if you want to keep your church or your organization small, keep doing that. If you want to grow and develop more leaders, you take someone with you, and then the next time you get a call, you send them and tell them to take somebody with them. And before you know it, the gifts and the ministry begins to manifest through the church, not just through a leadership team. So great leaders pull people into their world. Jesus said, come follow me. He pulled people into his world. Not just anyone, they were people that were willing to follow. He didn't pull stiff-necked people, he didn't drag them along. He said, you come follow me. Not, I'm going to drag you somewhere. Come follow me. So it's people that are willing and see the value in following. Number 2, great leaders build relationship. Probably one of the most important things of long-term leadership is relationship. Probably the hardest thing to do consistently as well. In a world that we live in where everything is so fast-paced, we are so busy, there's commuting happening for work. It's really, if you're lucky to get 10 or 15 minutes with someone, on a Sunday if you're lucky. That's about the maximum amount of FaceTime that you get with most people. But to pick up the phone or to send a text message or to do something where there's some sort of relationship building happening, like I said, leadership, you have to be fairly deliberate. And it's something that a lot of the time I think the best leaders will make time for. They will make time for their key leaders. So great leaders build relationship. Jesus didn't hold leadership conferences. He built relationship and did life with people. He had these 12 guys for 3 years, traveling, eating together, ministering together. Someone said to me, love your people always before processes. People are your most, as a leader, as a manager, as a boss, whatever, people are your most valuable asset all the time. Number 3, great leaders lead from the front. Great leaders lead from the front. And this is a credibility issue. It doesn't mean that a leader has to do everything from the ground level. Otherwise, he or she is abandoning their role as a leader to be sometimes directing traffic with a bird's eye view. Therefore, they need to have their head above the treetops to see where we're going and what's happening. However, I believe the best leaders generally won't ask you to do something that they're not willing to do themselves. Jesus followed God. He said, I only do what I see my Father do. We talk about leadership and we hear about leadership quite often. How often do you actually hear about fellowship though? The best leaders are usually the best followers. There's someone that they're chasing. There's someone that they're in the footsteps of. There's someone that they've looked at and gone, I want to be more like that, or that person has qualities or something on their life that I need or I know that I want to have. So I want to follow that person. So the best leaders follow a leader. The best leaders serve their people. And these are 2 things that we as leaders usually want from the people that are following us. We want them to follow us and we want them to serve well. A great leader who leads from the front will serve their people, as Jesus did, wash the feet of his disciples, and he followed God. Is that all right? The way that Jesus did this is he modeled it. So Jesus did miracles. If you look at a model on a catwalk, what they're doing is they are wearing something that they're trying to pass on to somebody else, whether it be the latest brand or the latest fashion. They catwalk, they walk a certain way, they draw attention, and they show people in the audience, hey, this is how it's done. This is how it looks. So Jesus modeled. Then Jesus taught. So he taught principles. I said model, didn't I? Modeled? Oh yeah, so step 1, model. Step 2, explain. So Jesus didn't just demonstrate leadership and ministry. He actually then would teach principles to support what he was demonstrating. Then the third thing that he did is he delegated. Once he had modeled it, then explained and taught principles to support it, he then delegated. Jesus sent out the disciples, sent out the 70, sent them out 2 by 2. So he modeled, he explained, and then he delegated. Number 4, great leaders are comfortable with others being elevated. Great leaders are okay with the fact that people on their team may get more spotlight than them, or may get more acclaim or accolades or attention perhaps. Jesus said, greater things will you do. It's not like Jesus was trying to hog the who can do the best miracle trick. I think he was that secure in who he was, that secure as a leader. And let's be real. It's a bit of a tough scenario anyway because it's God in flesh. You know what I mean? But I heard Brian Houston at a leaders retreat recently. He said, he passed around the mic and said, if there was one question that you could ask Brian Houston, what would it be? And the microphone went around, and one guy asked, how do you maintain your leadership when you're surrounded by such amazing people? He said, that's a great question. He said, I know who I'm called to be, and I'm called to be dad of the house. But when I think about it, I've got these rock stars. He goes, try and be Brian Houston for a day. I've got Joel Houston's rock star extraordinaires. I've got Christine Caines turning the world upside down against human trafficking. I've got all this X, Y, and Z happening around me, and I'm just little old Brian Houston, and hey, I'm just comfortable with who I am, secure in who I am, and God did something amazing. But at the end of the day, all these people that have all these amazing talents and ministries around me, they just know that I'm Dad. And he's so comfortable in that. All right, number 5, because I've got to wrap this up. Number 5, great leaders allow people to make mistakes. Great leaders allow people to make mistakes. When people know that they are entrusted and that you have confidence in them and that you're okay and maybe even expecting them to stuff up, it's such a release and a freedom for them to operate within the boundaries that you've given them. It breeds empowerment, trust, confidence. It also breeds results. Peter denied Christ, but he came back bigger and stronger in the book of Acts. He made a mistake, but he came back and he truly was a rock of the church. Number 6, to finish up, great leaders put themselves in other people's shoes. They have the ability to empathize. And to finish this point up, to be an effective leader, I think it's important to keep in the forefront of your mind, be the kind of leader that I would love to follow. Be the kind of father that I would love to have. Be the kind of manager that I would love to have to be working for. Be the kind of business, whatever it may be. Be the kind of mom, be the kind of big brother, be the kind of youth leader, be the kind of pastor that I would love to have. And we're going to leave it there. So we hope that this has blessed you. Hope it's given you some practical tools to apply to whatever sphere of influence and leadership you may have. And just remember, you are leading somebody. Question is, where are you leading them? Amen. Love you. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.